Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
I am here with Teva Pharmaceuticals CEO Richard Francis joining me right now. Nice to see you in person.
Great to be here, Katie. Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about the past year that you've had, because you take a look at your share performance, shares up 111% last year alone. That is your second best performance on record. How do you plan to keep that momentum going in 2025?
Well, so thank you. Thank you for having us, and thank you for recognizing that. And maybe could I just take a moment to bask in the fact that the team have achieved that. And I'm really proud of the team at Teva, because we've had some tough times, and to come back with that share growth happens because we've done a lot of things well. And I think it's primarily been driven by the fact that we've moved our innovative portfolio forward, and we've sold that particularly well, commercialized it really well in the United States. Austedo, Uzedy, and Ajovy. And those have performed tremendously well. We've raised our consensus twice in the year because of their performance. And then towards the end of the year, our pipeline started to mature, and we saw some great data on our TL1A. And that was sort of, I think really surprised everybody. And so with all that, we had a great 24. And in a way, to be a little bit boring, it's going to be more of the same in 25. We're going to keep driving Austedo, keep driving Uzedy, keep driving Ajovy, and bring that pipeline through. Because now people are really excited about the innovative aspects of Teva and our pipeline. We'll still do that. And on our generics and biosimilars, keep driving that. That's been a consistent driver for us, and throwing off cash that allows us to invest in that innovative business, which is creating so much excitement.
Well, in your case, more of the same is good. I'm sure your shareholders would be happy to see a repeat performance there. But I want to talk a little bit about generic drugs, and particularly prices, because prices for generics is still going down in the U.S. And I believe you said on your latest earnings call that you expect generic prices to be pushed down further in 2025. So against that backdrop, I mean, how do you sustain the generics business in that deflationary environment?
Well, I think for generics, you've got to have a few things. You've got to be global in scale, and we are. You've got to have a really deep pipeline, which we do, great manufacturing capability, which we do, and then a go-to-market model, which we have that global reach. But we have to do all of those three things really consistently. I do think, there comes a point where, as much as we can offset those price decreases and keep growing the company, I do think healthcare systems in the United States and Europe need to understand, are they paying the right amount for what are high-quality medicines? I think Teva supplies roughly 1 in 10, 1 in 12 scripts in the United States. So every 10 or 12 scripts is a Teva script. And I'm very proud of that, because we help, affordable medicines, people have access to affordable medicines. But despite our efficiency and our scale, I do think potentially we have to really think about that if we want to have that level of service and not to have any issues with supply.
Well, let's get into some supply questions here. I want to talk about Adderall, because you have both brand name and generic Adderall in a shortage since 2022, which of course you manufacture. What more can be done to end the shortage, and what role do you think that the government and other companies should be playing here?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting one, because there's been a sort of dramatic increase in the prescriptions of this product. And so because of the type of product it is, we're given a quota by the government for what we can make. And so we make that amount, and we max out on that amount because it's a restricted substance. And so it's quite a complex supply chain. I think part of it is about assessing, is this about supply, or is this about prescriptions, and is this about overprescribing? And I think that's the area that needs to be looked at. But we're maxed out on what we're being asked to do, and we're committed to do that. So I think it's a bigger, more complex story.
Two questions there, I guess. Do you expect that, that ceiling on what you can make to move higher? And then what is your opinion? Do you think that this is an issue of supply or overprescription?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think it's one where, when I look at it comparative to other markets, then the usage and the supply is a lot higher in the United States. So we don't often see discrepancies on a geographical scale like that. So I think it's probably something that, as the people investigate it, and I think the government should look into it, and the FDA, I think it maybe is a bit of both. But I think the supply is probably where it should be, maybe needs a bit more. I think the prescriptions has really accelerated dramatically, and we've got to ask why. Is that a change in the incidence, the epidemiology? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, that's a big question when it comes to overprescribing that I won't ask you that particularly, but I do want to talk about GLP-1s because you came out with your first generic GLP-1 drug. It's a copy of one of Novo Nordisk's lineup. What are your plans for selling generics of the more popular GLP-1s that are out there?
So we plan to do it. So we have that one, Victoza, that came out last year, and this year we plan to launch Saxenda, so it's another GLP-1. And our aim is to, as a global generics company, any product that loses its patent, we sort of have in our line of sight. And obviously the bigger ones, we definitely have in our line of sight. So all those GLP-1s and those emerging other modalities in obesity, we would target. But we always think about capital allocation, because as much as we're a $9 billion generics business, we're also one of the fastest growing innovative companies. And so capital allocation is very important. And so we're still putting the majority of our capital into our innovative business because we have such a deep pipeline and such an exciting pipeline that we want to make sure that's properly resourced.
Well, to that point of capital allocation, let's talk about the M&A outlook here, because we're at the JPMorgan Healthcare Conference. We are being hit over the head with deal announcements, and you're expected to see a more friendly regulatory environment, at least in the United States, under the second Trump administration. What is your strategy when it comes to M&A right now? Yeah,
so we're sort of one, our balance sheet allows us to do a certain amount, so I don't think you're going to see us go big. We're probably going to in-license a lot of, look to in-license products. But the thing we have is, because we have this pipeline that I keep talking about late stage, we have a product, Dari in asthma in phase 3, we have olanzapine in phase 3 for schizophrenia, and we have the TL1A, which everybody's excited about at the end of last year in phase 2, now moving to phase 3. So we have a lot of growth drivers coming forward in Teva. So, and then we have other products that we've moved into phase 2, Emrisolmin for MSA, a rare disease. So we have quite a lot in our pipeline. So when we think about BD or M&A, we've got to think carefully, because we can allocate a lot of capital to our own pipeline and I think give a good return for our shareholders. And so when we look outside, we just got to be mindful, is it worth bringing that in, or do we have a pipeline? And that's a challenge we always have in our industry. But I think we're in a particular privileged position with Teva because of the pipeline we have. But we'll aim to do some more in licensing than big M&A.
All right, well, that's a good place to leave it. Richard, really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, Katie. Pleasure to be here.